Lisa Howard looked through her microscope with deep focus. The tiny creature on the glass slide seemed ordinary to most people, but Lisa knew better. Tardigrades, often called water bears, were the toughest animals on Earth. They could survive, in space, withstand extreme heat and cold, and live without water for years. Amazing little things, she said to herself, as she took notes in her lab at the Oceanic Research Institute. The building stood on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, giving Lisa a beautiful view during her breaks. The sunny afternoon suddenly turned strange when a bright light flashed across the sky. Lisa ran to the window just in time to see something large crash into the ocean about 2 miles offshore. The impact sent water shooting up like a giant fountain. "What on earth?" she whispered, grabbing her phone to call the Coast Guard. Within hours, the area was full of activity. Navy ships surrounded the crash site. News helicopters flew overhead. Lisa watched from the Institute's roof as divers went into the water. Captain Alan Murphy stood on the deck of his ship, looking at the underwater scan results. 10 years in the Navy had prepared him for many things, but not this. "Sir, you need to see this," said his second-in-command, handing him a tablet. The underwater images showed something that clearly wasn't a plane or a boat. It was round, metallic, and unlike anything made on Earth. "Get me a secure line to headquarters," Murphy ordered, his face serious, "and keep all civilian boats away from this area." As night fell, strange lights appeared under the water. The crashed object was doing something. Murphy ordered his team to be ready for anything. At dawn, the water began to bubble. Then, to everyone's shock, a large section of the ocean lifted as something enormous rose from below. It wasn't the crashed ship. It was much bigger. A rescue ship, not from Earth. The ship hovered above the water, its surface shining in the morning sun. It was at least 3 times the size of an aircraft carrier. Military jets scrambled to the scene, circling the massive craft. "Hold your fire," Murphy commanded through the radio. "I repeat, hold your fire." A beam of light shot down from the hovering ship, and 5 figures appeared on the deck of Murphy's vessel. They were tall, with blue-gray skin and large eyes. 4 of them wore what looked like armor, while the 5th wore elaborate robes. "I am Commander Vexnor of the Galactic Federation," the robed figure said in perfect English. "We have come to retrieve our scout ship and its crew." Murphy stepped forward, keeping his hands visible. "Captain Alan Murphy, United States Navy. We mean no harm." Vexnor's large eyes narrowed. "You have no idea what harm truly is, Captain. Your planet harbors the most dangerous creature in the galaxy." Murphy looked confused. "I don't understand." The alien held up a small device that projected an image. Murphy leaned forward to look, expecting to see some terrible monster. Instead, he saw a familiar tiny creature. "That's a tardigrade," Murphy said. "They're microscopic, harmless." Vexnor made a sound like a laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Harmless? Those creatures have destroyed entire civilizations. They survive conditions that would kill any other living thing. They are practically immortal." At that moment, Lisa Howard was brought aboard by 2 guards. She had been spotted taking photographs from a small boat and was detained. "Dr. Lisa Howard, marine biologist," she introduced herself. "And you're wrong about tardigrades. They're incredible survivors, yes, but they don't harm other species." Vexnor turned to her, his expression grave. "Your ignorance is understandable but dangerous. The Zarkoth have been tracking the location of these creatures throughout the galaxy. They destroy any planet where tardigrades exist, and they have just entered your solar system." Murphy and Lisa exchanged worried glances as the meaning became clear. Earth was in danger, not because of what humanity had done, but because of the planet's tiniest, toughest residents. Within 24 hours, the world leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. The aliens had shared videos of what the Zarkoth had done to other planets. Entire worlds turned to ash, billions of lives lost, all because of tiny creatures that humans had always seen as harmless. Lisa sat nervously at a large round table. She never expected her research on tardigrades would put her in a room with the president and military leaders. "Dr. Howard, you're our expert on these creatures," said General William Martinez, leaning forward in his chair. Tell us what we're dealing with. Lisa cleared her throat. Tardigrades are microscopic animals found everywhere on Earth. In oceans, mountains, deserts. They can survive almost anything. Extreme heat, cold, radiation, even the vacuum of space. They can go without water for decades and still revive when conditions improve. That's why the Zarkoth fear them, Commander Vexnor added. Their adaptability is unmatched in the galaxy. Captain Murphy looked at the alien. But why destroy entire planets? Surely there's another solution. Vexnor's large eyes blinked slowly. The Zarkoth believe there is no safe level of tardigrade presence. Their biology is vulnerable to what makes tardigrades strong. Dr. Samantha Peters, a government scientist, had been examining the alien biological data. She stood up with a tablet in her hand. I think I understand, she said. The Zarkoth have an interesting cellular structure that makes them highly vulnerable to rapid environmental changes. Tardigrades thrive on exactly what kills them. The president looked grim. How much time do we have? Vexnor touched a device on his wrist, projecting a map of the solar system. A red dot moved slowly toward Earth. 3 weeks, perhaps less, he said. The room fell silent. Then General Martinez spoke, his voice firm. We need to prepare for defense. Captain Murphy, work with Commander Vexnor to analyze the Zarkoth weapons and tactics. Yes, sir, Murphy replied. Dr. Howard and Dr. Peters, the general continued. I want you working on anything we can learn from tardigrades that might help us. The meeting ended with a sense of urgent purpose. Earth's governments began working together like never before. The public was told a partial truth, that Earth faced a threat from space. Panic was unavoidable, but most people responded with determination rather than despair. Lisa set up a joint laboratory with Dr. Peters. They worked day and night studying tardigrades and the alien biological data. Look at this, Lisa said, one night pointing at her screen. When tardigrades enter their dried state, they produce special proteins that protect their cells. Samantha looked closer. And according to the alien data, these same proteins would be toxic to Zarkoth biology. In another part of the facility, Captain Murphy worked closely with Vexnor, learning about Zarkoth battle strategies. They attack in waves, Vexnor explained, showing holographic images of previous battles. First, they send scouts to locate tardigrade concentrations. Then they target those areas for complete destruction. Murphy studied the images carefully. Their ships have a weak point here, he pointed. Is that the engine core? Yes, Vexnor said, surprised. How did you notice that? Pattern recognition, Murphy said simply. It's how we train. The days passed quickly. Scientists around the world joined the effort. Engineers began adapting Earth's weapons based on the new knowledge. Across the globe, people prepared for the coming storm. 2 weeks into their preparation, the early warning systems that Vexnor had helped install beeped loudly. They're here, Vexnor said, pointing to the screen. Earlier than expected, a fleet of Zarkoth ships had entered the solar system and was approaching rapidly. General Martinez called for another emergency meeting. What's our status? We have some defenses ready, Murphy reported. Not everything we planned, but enough to put up a fight. Lisa and Samantha exchanged worried glances. Their research was promising but incomplete. We need more time, Lisa said. The general's face was stone-like as he replied. Time just ran out. Lisa worked frantically in her lab. Outside, military vehicles rushed across the compound as Earth prepared for the coming battle. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders. Who would have thought the fate of humanity might depend on understanding tiny water bears? She looked through her microscope at the tardigrades in their activated state. These creatures had survived 5 mass extinctions on Earth. Now they might help humans survive this new threat. A gentle tap on the lab door made her look up. An alien stood there, but not Vexnor or any of the other Galactic Federation members she had met. I am Zivil, the alien said. Biologist. Commander Vexnor sent me to help. Lisa nodded. We need all the help we can get. Zivel moved to the microscope with a fluid grace. May I? Lisa stepped aside. The alien peered at the tardigrades with large, curious eyes. On my world, we studied these creatures from a safe distance, Zivel said. Your people keep them in simple glass containers. Fascinating. They're harmless to us, Lisa explained. What made the Zarkoth so afraid of them? Zivel's expression changed to something Lisa read as sadness. 300 years ago, a Zarkoth science vessel visited a world much like yours. They collected samples, including what you call tardigrades. When they returned home, something unexpected happened. What? Lisa asked. The tardigrades adapted to the Zarkoth world. They formed a relationship with local microbes, creating something new. Within weeks, millions of Zarkoth were dead. Lisa frowned. That sounds like the tardigrades became part of a disease. Yes. Their remarkable ability to adapt made them perfect carriers for pathogens that affected Zarkoth biology. Since then, the Zarkoth have destroyed any world where tardigrades exist. They believe it is the only way to be safe. In another building, Captain Murphy was working with engineer Kevin Daniels on a new defense system. These shields are inspired by tardigrade proteins, Kevin explained, showing Murphy the designs. They can absorb energy from Zarkoth weapons based on what Vexnor told us. Murphy nodded. How many ships can we outfit with this technology? Maybe 20 if we work around the clock, Kevin replied. Not enough to face their fleet. Murphy thought for a moment. Then we need to know more about what we're facing. I want to take a small team to Saturn's rings. We can observe the Zarkoth fleet from there without being detected. General Martinez approved the mission. Murphy selected a crew and departed in a ship modified with the new tardigrade-inspired shields. The journey to Saturn was tense. When they arrived, they positioned themselves within the planet's rings using the ice particles as cover. The Zarkoth fleet came into view, hundreds of ships, far more than Earth could hope to match. Begin scans, Murphy ordered. We need to find any weakness we can. Meanwhile, Lisa and Zivel made a breakthrough. They discovered that tardigrades produced a specific frequency when entering their suspended animation state. This frequency disrupts Zarkoth communication systems, Zivel explained, excited. It's why they can't operate near large tardigrade populations. Lisa's eyes widened. If we could amplify this frequency, we could create a shield that their ships couldn't penetrate, Zivel finished. They rushed to share their discovery with Dr. Peters and the engineering team. Back at Saturn, Murphy's ship had collected valuable data, but was running out of time. The Zarkoth fleet was moving, splitting into smaller groups. They're sending an advance force, Murphy realized. They're not attacking all at once. They're testing our defenses first. He sent an urgent message to Earth. Prepare for first contact. The scouting party will reach Earth in 12 hours. On Earth, the new frequency shield was still theoretical. They needed more time, but time had run out. The first battle for Earth was about to begin. Dawn broke over the Atlantic Ocean as 20 Earth ships formed a defensive line. Each vessel had been quickly fitted with the experimental tardigrade-inspired shields. The crews were nervous but determined. They represented the first line of defense for their planet. Captain Murphy had made it back to Earth just in time to lead the fleet. He stood on the bridge of the flagship looking at the radar screen that showed 5 Zarkoth scout ships entering Earth's atmosphere. Remember, people, Murphy spoke over the communication system. These shields are untested. Stay in formation and follow the plan. In the sky above, 5 dark shapes appeared. The Zarkoth scout ships were large, each one bigger than Earth's largest aircraft carrier. They moved with surprising grace for their size. They're scanning the surface, reported a young officer. Looks like they're searching for tardigrade concentrations. Murphy nodded. Just as Vexnor predicted, hold positions until they make the first move. On land, Lisa and Dr. Peters watched the situation from the command center alongside General Martinez and other military leaders. A large screen showed the standoff at sea. The frequency shield is ready for testing, Lisa said. But we couldn't install it on the ships in time. The general frowned. Then we need to buy more time. The tension broke when one of the Zarkoth ships fired a beam of bright blue energy at an uninhabited island nearby. The island exploded into dust. That's our cue, Murphy said grimly. All ships engage as planned. The Earth fleet moved forward, spreading out to surround the alien vessels. The Zarkoth responded immediately, firing their energy weapons. When the blue beams hit the tardigrade-inspired shields, something unexpected happened. The shields didn't just block the energy, they absorbed it, growing stronger. "It's working," shouted Kevin from the engineering deck. "The shields are adapting, just like tardigrades do." The Earth ships returned fire with their conventional weapons. Most had little effect on the Zarkoth hulls, but the distraction allowed 3 smaller vessels to get underneath the alien ships. In the command center, communications specialist Nicole Bailey was working frantically at her station. "I'm picking up transmissions between the Zarkoth ships," she reported. "They're using some kind of code, but there are patterns." Lisa moved to Nicole's side. "Can you isolate the frequency?" Nicole nodded, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "Working on it. Their language is strange, but there's definitely a pattern." Outside, the battle intensified. 2 Earth ships were hit in areas not covered by the shields and began to sink. But one of the Zarkoth vessels was also in trouble, surrounded by smaller Earth ships that fired continuously at the same spot, weakening its hull. "We've found a weak point," Murphy called over the communication system. "All ships target the lower rear quadrant of the Zarkoth vessels." The battle strategy shifted. Earth ships darted in and out, focusing fire on the weak points. One of the Zarkoth scouts began to falter, its engines flickering. "I've got something," Nicole announced in the command center. They keep repeating, one word over and over. Something like cryptobiosis. Lisa's eyes widened. "That's what we call the tardigrade's dormant state. They're terrified that we're using tardigrades as weapons." In the sky, the damaged Zarkoth ship began to descend. Forced lower by concentrated fire, Murphy saw an opportunity. "All nearby ships prepare boarding teams," he ordered. "We need to capture one of them alive if possible." As Earth forces pressed their advantage, 3 of the remaining Zarkoth ships began to retreat, moving back toward space. But the damaged one couldn't escape. It crash-landed in shallow water 2 miles offshore. Murphy led the boarding team himself. They cut through the alien hull to find most of the crew dead. But in what looked like a control room, they found one survivor. The Zarkoth looked at the humans with eyes full of fear. The captured Zarkoth was taken to a secure facility inland. It was taller than most humans, with gray-purple skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in the light. 4 arms ended in hands with 7 long fingers each. Its large eyes watched the humans with obvious fear. Lisa entered the room where the alien was being held. Guards stood nearby, but General Martinez had agreed that a scientist might have better luck communicating than military personnel. "My name is Dr. Lisa Howard," she said slowly. "Can you understand me?" The alien was silent for a moment, then spoke in a voice that sounded like bubbling water. "I am Kalzar, navigation officer. Your language was part of our mission briefing." "We don't want to harm you," Lisa said. "We just want to understand why you're attacking our planet." Kalzar's eyes blinked in a strange pattern. "You harbor the Deathbringers, the tiny immortals. They must be destroyed before they destroy us all." Lisa pulled out a small container. Inside was a microscope slide with several tardigrades. Kalzar pushed back against the wall, clearly terrified. "Keep those away. Even one can bring death to millions." "These creatures have lived on our planet for millions of years," Lisa explained. "They've never harmed us." "Not yet," Kalzar said. "But they will evolve. They always do." In another part of the facility, Dr. Peters had made a breakthrough. She rushed into the room where Captain Murphy was reviewing battle footage. Oh, she exclaimed. "I've modified the tardigrades to emit the frequency that disrupts Zarkoth technology." Murphy looked up. "Can we use this to defend against the main fleet?" "Yes, but it gets better," Samantha said excitedly. "We can adjust the frequency so it only affects their weapons, not their life support systems. We can disable without destroying." Murphy immediately called General Martinez. "Sir, Dr. Peters has a non-lethal solution. We might be able to end this without more bloodshed." The general sounded skeptical. These aliens came to destroy our planet, Captain. Why show mercy? Because we're better than that, Murphy replied firmly, and tactically capturing their ships intact would give us a huge technological advantage. After a pause, the general agreed. Set it up, but keep our conventional weapons ready, just in case. Meanwhile, Lisa continued talking with Kalzar. She showed the alien video footage of humans working with tardigrades, studying them peacefully. See? We don't use them as weapons. We study them to learn about survival. Kalzar seemed confused, but the prophecy says the Deathbringers will be weaponized by those who control them. Prophecy? Lisa asked. Our religious texts speak of tiny immortal creatures that would destroy our species if found and controlled by others. This was new information. Lisa realized they weren't just dealing with a scientific fear, but a cultural and religious one as well. Captain Murphy entered the room. Dr. Howard, we need you. Dr. Peters has modified the tardigrades, but we need your expertise to implement the plan. Lisa nodded and turned to Kalzar. Would you be willing to help us, to find a solution that doesn't involve destroying Earth? Kalzar was silent, clearly struggling with conflicting thoughts. Finally, the alien spoke. If you truly do not intend to weaponize these creatures against us, I will help. In the lab, Lisa, Samantha, and Kalzar worked together with the modified tardigrades. The creatures now emitted a specific frequency when activated, a frequency that would render Zarkoth weapons useless. We can create a shield around Earth, Samantha explained, like an invisible bubble that their weapons can't penetrate. But we need to test it first, Lisa said, and we're running out of time. The early warning system suddenly blared. Everyone looked up at the monitors. The main Zarkoth fleet has entered Earth's solar system, Kevin announced from his station. They'll be here in less than 24 hours. Lisa looked at the modified tardigrades under her microscope. These tiny creatures are now our biggest hope. Earth's defenses were as ready as they could be in the short time available. Space stations had been equipped with the tardigrade frequency emitters. Ships with special shields waited in orbit. On the ground, people huddled in shelters watching news reports about the coming battle. General Martinez stood in the command center, looking at the large screen showing the approaching Zarkoth fleet. There were hundreds of ships, far more than Earth could match. This is War Commander Drezkor of the Zarkoth Empire. A deep voice suddenly boomed through the communication system. Surrender the Deathbringers or be destroyed. Martinez looked at Lisa, who nodded. They had prepared for this. This is General William Martinez of Earth. We wish to discuss a peaceful solution. A harsh laugh came through the speakers. There is no peaceful solution while the Deathbringers exist on your world. The communication cut off. Moments later, the front line of Zarkoth ships fired bright blue energy beams toward Earth. The tardigrade frequency shield activated, creating a rippling effect in the sky. Most of the beams dissipated before reaching the atmosphere, but some broke through, hitting targets on the ground. The shield is working, but it's not strong enough, Kevin shouted from his monitoring station. We need more power. Earth ships engaged the Zarkoth vessels darting between the larger alien craft. The new shields based on tardigrade proteins worked well, but there were simply too many enemy ships. We need to get to their command ship, Murphy said, pointing at a massive vessel at the center of the Zarkoth fleet. If we can convince their leader, we might end this. Kalzar, who had been watching quietly, stepped forward. I can help you identify it. But War Commander Drezkor will not listen easily. He is a true believer in the prophecy. In orbit, the International Space Station had been converted into a major defense point. Engineer Kevin Daniels led a team. They're working to boost the power of the tardigrade shield. Reroute power from the living quarters, he ordered. We need everything we can get. The battle in space intensified. 3 Earth ships exploded under concentrated fire. But they had taken down 7 Zarkoth vessels as well. The tardigrade shields were working. On the ground, things were worse. Some Zarkoth ships had broken through and landed. Their soldiers moved through cities, searching for tardigrade concentrations. They carried devices that could detect the microscopic creatures. They're targeting research facilities and universities, Nicole reported, tracking the ground invasion. Anywhere tardigrades might be studied. Lisa looked at the battle maps with growing horror. This isn't working. We need a new approach, Dr. Peters, who had been analyzing data from the battle, suddenly looked up. The Zarkoth biology is adapting. They're becoming resistant to our frequency. How is that possible? Lisa asked. I don't know, but the readings are clear. The frequency is less effective with each passing hour. In space, Murphy's ship took heavy damage as he tried to get closer to the Zarkoth command vessel. His engines were failing, shields weakening. Captain, we can't take much more of this, his second-in-command warned. Murphy gripped his chair as the ship shook from another hit. We need to keep trying. Back at the command center, Kalzar had been watching Earth's defenses with increasing interest. The alien turned to Lisa. Your species is unusual. You defend these creatures that you have no religious connection to. Why? Because all life deserves protection, Lisa replied. Even microscopic life, especially life that has survived on our planet for millions of years. Kalzar seemed to consider this deeply. Perhaps there is another way. The alien hesitated, then continued. I know a way onto Drezkor's command ship. A way your captain, Murphy, could use. General Martinez looked skeptical. Why would you help us now? Because I have seen how you treat the Deathbringers. Not as weapons, but as teachers. This goes against everything our prophecy claims. The general studied Kalzar for a moment, then nodded. Get that information to Captain Murphy immediately. Captain Murphy's damaged ship limped toward what looked like a small moon. It wasn't a moon at all, but the massive Zarkoth command vessel. Using Kalzar's information, they approached from a blind spot in the ship's sensors. This is crazy, Murphy's second-in-command whispered as they prepared to board. Just the two of us and one Zarkoth against their entire command crew? Murphy checked his equipment one last time. Sometimes crazy is all we have left. Kalzar had insisted on coming along. The alien knew the inner workings of Zarkoth ships and could get them to War Commander Drezkor. Back on Earth, Lisa and Dr. Peters worked frantically to strengthen the tardigrade frequency shield. We need to make it adaptive, Lisa said suddenly. Just like tardigrades adapt to survive. Samantha looked up, her eyes wide with realization. If we modulate the frequency, constantly changing it, the Zarkoth won't be able to adapt fast. Enough. Lisa finished her thought. They rushed to implement the new approach, reprogramming the frequency emitters around the planet. In space, the battle continued to rage. Earth ships fought bravely, but were heavily outnumbered. The International Space Station, now the main generator for the tardigrade shield, came under heavy attack. We're losing power, Kevin shouted as explosions rocked the station. We can't hold the shield much longer. On the ground, Zarkoth forces pushed deeper into major cities. Their soldiers were tall and moved with incredible speed, using advanced weapons that turned buildings to dust. Human military forces fought back with everything they had, but were slowly losing ground. Inside the massive Zarkoth command ship, Murphy, his second-in-command, and Kalzar moved carefully through dimly lit corridors. Twice they had to hide as groups of Zarkoth soldiers passed by. The command center is ahead, Kalzar whispered, pointing to a large door guarded by 4 tall Zarkoth soldiers. How do we get past them? Murphy asked. Instead of answering, Kalzar stepped into the open and spoke rapidly in the Zarkoth language. The guards looked confused, then angry. They raised their weapons but hesitated when they recognized Kalzar. Using this moment of confusion, Murphy and his partner rushed forward. A brief fight left the guards unconscious but not dead. I told them I was a prisoner who escaped, Kalzar explained. Not very creative, but it worked. They entered the command center and found themselves facing at least 20 Zarkoth, including a massive figure seated on a raised platform. War Commander Drezkor was larger than the other Zarkoth, with darker skin and eyes that seemed to glow with their own light. What is the meaning of this? Drescor demanded, rising from his seat. Before anyone could move, Murphy pulled out a small device and activated it. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room, a video showing humans working with tardigrades peacefully. "We don't use them as weapons," Murphy said clearly. "We never have." Calzar stepped forward. "War Commander, I have spent time with these humans. The prophecy is wrong about them. They respect the Deathbringers as teachers, not weapons." Drescor's eyes narrowed. "Traitor, the prophecy is clear." "The prophecy is open to interpretation," Calzar interrupted, a brave act that made the other Zarkoth gasp. "I've seen their world. The Deathbringers have been there for millions of years without bringing harm." Meanwhile on Earth, General Martinez watched the battle growing worse by the minute. Reports of Zarkoth advances came in from every continent. "Sir," said a young officer. "What are your orders?" The general was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a decision that would change the course of the battle. "Send this message to all our forces. Cease offensive operations immediately. Maintain defensive positions only." The command center fell silent in shock. "Sir?" the officer asked uncertainly. "You heard me," Martinez said firmly. "Sometimes winning isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about showing them who you really are." Across Earth, human forces stopped attacking. Fighter pilots held their fire. Ground troops took defensive positions only. The sudden change confused the Zarkoth soldiers, who hesitated, unsure how to respond. In the Zarkoth command ship, a message appeared on a large screen. It was General Martinez, broadcasting to all ships. "This is Earth's military command. We are not your enemy. We seek peaceful coexistence. Our forces will not attack unless attacked first." War Commander Drescor watched with narrowed eyes. "A trick," he growled. "They hope to lower our guard." Murphy shook his head. "No trick. We could have weaponized tardigrades against you. We chose not to." "He speaks truth," Calzar added. "These humans had months to create biological weapons using the Deathbringers. Instead, they created defensive technology only." Drescor turned to his officers. "Is this true? Have they used biological attacks?" "No, War Commander," replied a Zarkoth officer. "Their attacks have been conventional only." On Earth, Lisa worked with Zivel in the main laboratory. They had prepared a special demonstration. Vexnor stood nearby, watching carefully. "We're ready," Lisa told General Martinez. "Connect us to the command ship." The general nodded, and soon Lisa's face appeared on the screen in the Zarkoth command center. "War Commander Drescor," she said clearly. "I am Dr. Lisa Howard. I study tardigrades. I want to show you something important." She stepped aside, revealing a large container with a controlled ecosystem inside. It contained soil, water, plants, and a carefully managed tardigrade population. "This is a balanced system," Lisa explained. "The tardigrades live in harmony with other organisms. They don't take over. They don't destroy. They adapt and survive." Zivel stepped into view. "War Commander, I have confirmed their research. The humans understand tardigrade biology better than any species we have encountered. They have learned to manage these creatures safely." Drescor was silent for a long moment. Then he asked, "Why should we trust you?" "Because we're still here," Murphy answered simply. "Tardigrades have been on our planet for over 500 million years. If they were going to destroy us, they would have done it long ago." The command center fell silent. The battle outside had almost completely stopped as both sides waited to see what would happen next. Finally, Drescor spoke. "I will meet with your leaders, in person." 2 hours later, in a heavily guarded conference room, General Martinez, Lisa, Dr. Peters, Captain Murphy, and the alien allies Vexnor and Zivel sat across from War Commander Drescor and his advisors. Lisa presented a comprehensive plan for tardigrade management across the galaxy. "With proper protocols, tardigrades can be beneficial to all species," she explained. "Their survival abilities hold the key to medical advancements, environmental restoration, and space exploration." Drescor studied the plans carefully. "This goes against centuries of our beliefs, he said slowly, but the evidence is compelling. Sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from changing our minds when faced with new information, Martinez said. The negotiations continued through the night. By morning, an agreement was reached. The Zarkoth would withdraw their forces. Earth would share its tardigrade management protocols with the galaxy. A joint research station would be established to study the creatures safely. 1 month later, Lisa stood on the observation deck of the new research facility built on Mars. Captain Murphy stood beside her, watching as human scientists worked alongside Zarkoth and other alien researchers. "Hard to believe how close we came to destruction," Murphy said. Lisa nodded, all because of microscopic creatures that most people never even notice. Kalzar joined them, looking out at the red Martian landscape. In our oldest texts there is a saying, "The smallest things often matter most." That's true on Earth too, Lisa smiled. Far below them in the laboratory, human and alien hands worked side by side, studying the tiny creatures that had nearly caused war but instead brought new understanding. The tardigrades, oblivious to their importance, continued doing what they had done for millions of years, surviving, adapting, and now bringing species together in unexpected ways.